The following program is a co-production of Crossroads and Land of Hope. Up next, if you're ready to live courageously and fulfill your God-given purpose, stay tuned for an inspiring message and valuable lessons from real-life overcomers.
Hello friends, welcome to Living in Hope. We're in a series of taking people from the Bible that God used in a very divine way. Despite their human aspect, that even some of them, the Bible talks about their sins, and yet God used them in a very divine way. And that series is based on what came on 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3 and 4. It does say that His divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life through our knowledge of Him who called us by His own glory and goodness. Through these He has given us His very great and precious promises, so that through them you may participate in the divine nature, having escaped the corruption in the world caused by evil desire. You and I are partakers of that divine nature. We're called to work with God. Today we're going to talk about Peter. Let's go to the scripture, and we're going to start with Matthew 14, verse 25 to 33. Matthew 14, verse 25 to 33. Shortly before Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw Him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately, I like the immediatelys in the Bible, Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came forward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." That's human. "Lord, save me." Immediately, one more time, Jesus reached out His hand and caught him. "You of little faith," He said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped Him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." Watch, nobody asked about Peter. He's the one who's wet in the boat. And they just went to Jesus and said, "You're truly Son of God." That was around the fourth hour, which is between 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. It was pretty early in the morning, 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. And again, I never known anybody, as far as I know, that walked on the water before, except Peter. And yet he got rebuked. At least he tried. Like, guys, come on, at least I tried to walk on the water, and I did it. Nobody of you walked on the water before. That's in Matthew 14. Matthew 15, and I imagine myself, before we read the following chapter, Matthew 15, I imagine Peter told himself, "You know what, I'm not going to speak again. I put myself in trouble. I was too fast. I asked, if it's you, command me to come to you." So I walked in the water. I went in the water. I walked a bit, but I got little faith, and so I'm not going to speak again. I'm going to keep it for myself. But watch, Matthew 15, the following chapter, verse 15 and 16. Peter said, "Explain the parable to us." "Are you still so dull?" Jesus asked him. In other translations, "Are you still without understanding?" That was harsh. Like, I don't know if you were in situations like this before and you heard harsh words from people around you. "Are you whatever?" I would think that Peter got embarrassed, because that was in front of everybody else. That wasn't just Peter and Jesus together. Everybody heard these words. "Are you still don't understand? Are you still so dull?" And again, I imagine Peter said to himself, "You know what? I definitely am not going to speak again. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. You will not hear a word from me after. I put myself in trouble, and now I hear these kind of things. It hurt my feelings. I'm not going to speak again." Following chapter, Matthew 16. We're at 14, 15, and now it's 16. Verse 13 and 19. Matthew 16, verse 13 to 19. When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, He asked His disciples, "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" They replied, some say John the Baptist, which I don't understand how. John the Baptist baptized Jesus. They were standing side by side. And yet, some people said John the Baptist, and others say Elijah, and still others, Jeremiah or one of the prophets. But what about you, he asked. What do you say I am? Simon Peter answered, you're the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Jesus replied, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah. For this wasn't revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. In other words, this is a miracle. This is divine. And it was truly a divine, that he knows that he is the Son of God. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, I imagine myself in the story. I think Peter said to the disciples, you know what? I'm the rock. and he said, I'm going to give you some keys too. I don't know what the keys for, but he's going to give you some keys. I'm the rock. You know that thing that you're so dull and don't understand and hurt my feeling and little face. I'm going to forgive him about this. Like he's most probably under so much stress. I will forgive. I'm the rock. And he's going to give me some keys. He must felt something about himself higher than everybody else. And I'll tell you why I say that, because what comes next in Matthew 16, verse 21 and 22. He did something really impressing to me. For that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders, the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed on the third day, be raised to life. Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. Never, Lord, he said, this shall never happen to you. You must feel pretty good about yourself to rebuke Jesus. It's like excuse me, can I talk to you for a second, please? And he took him on the side and he started to rebuke him. That's why I feel that he felt something about himself, that I'm the rock. Nobody ever, Jesus told him these words before. I'm the rock. I have some keys. Matthew 16, 23 to 25. Jesus turned and said to Peter, get behind me, Satan. Get behind me. You're a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns. Then Jesus said to his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. You see the divine, human. He walked on the water, then he doubted. Oh, little face. Then he spoke, explained the parable. Then he heard that word, are you still dull? Up and down, up and down. My point is, again, do not discount yourself out of ministry. You can be human. You can say wrong things maybe at wrong times, like what Peter does. But he was used in a very divine way. And we're going to see this very shortly. But here we see that God called him Satan. And again, I imagine Peter told Jesus, Satan, you changed my name from Simon Jonah to Peter, now to Satan. I would rather go back to Peter. Satan. And again, I think he said to himself, I'm not going to speak again. You will not hear a word from these lips, will never move again. And he was quiet for 6 days. Matthew 17, we're at 14, 15, 16. Now 17, Peter talks again and saying nonsense things. Matthew 17, verse 1 to 5. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and led them up in a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. This is a big deal. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. Just then there appeared before them Moses and Elijah talking with Jesus. Moses and Elijah with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it's good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, a bright cloud covered them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my son whom I love. With him I'm well pleased. Listen to him." Kind of God the Father said, "Please shut up. Just listen. Stop talking, Peter." This is a very holy moment. And yet Peter again speaks and say, nonsense. Luke 22, verse 31-32. The Gospel of Luke, chapter 22, verse 31-32. "Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat, but I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brother." Okay, I have a question for you here. Why Satan has asked for Peter? Why he didn't ask for the rest or everybody else except Peter? The wrong guy, saying wrong things, and most of the times put himself in trouble. Because he guessed the devil sees the potential. He guessed that Peter, in one day, he will be in front of 3,000 people after the resurrection, talking to people about Christ. Peter was called the pillar of the church. That Peter worked the first miracle after the resurrection. The first person raised from the dead after the resurrection. It was through Peter. They were bringing actually people so the shadow of Peter can heal them. We have a say called new levels, new devils. New levels, new devils. Every time you try to grow up spiritually with God, the devil will be more attacking you. He will be looking after you to destroy you because he guesses and sees the potential of you. You know, you remember that story when Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me?" And Peter answered, "I love you." He asked him second time, "Do you love me?" He answered, "I love you." Third time, "Do you love me?" And Peter kind of got upset. "Lord, I love you." And every time he said to Peter, "Take care of my sheep." Do you know why Jesus asked Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" Because my understanding from the story and from the Bible, that kind of Jesus wanted to tell Peter, "Peter, I know you love me. I know, Peter, I know you love me. I asked you 3 times, 'Do you love me?' And you said you love me. I know that you love me. And you say it by words. I hear you. You love me. But I want you, Peter, to make sure that you really love me because you're saying it by words. But I want you to be convinced from deep inside with all your heart that you really love me, because in a while you're going to deny that you know me 3 times. And the devil might come and let you doubt that you love me. I'm asking you 3 times because I know you love me, but I want you to know that you really love me." It's impossible that he would do this. But I want to tell you, you love him. Exactly what Peter did. He loves him. I'm not giving a permission or a grant to keep sinning. No. Because the grace is not cheap. The grace is not cheap, but it's a grace. But it's not allowing me to continue in my sin. But even if I sin, if I come back to him and I confess my sins, he would forgive, and yes, I love him. My friends, some people, their sins got exposed. But it doesn't mean because that sin got exposed of that person that you're not doing the same, or maybe another sin. Sin is a sin. For him, sin, whether small or big, is a sin. We're all sinning. And without Jesus and what he did on the cross, we wouldn't exist. once again, I'm not giving a permission to sin. We should strive because we got that divine nature that empowers us to destroy that power of sin. But in case we're going to sin tomorrow and next week and next year, he forgave that sin on the cross. And if he did this with Peter, he wanted to let him know that he really loves Jesus. You love him. Do not let the devil let you doubt that you are not equipped and you don't love him. And there's no way you do this because you can't do this if you love him. You try to not sin, but even if you sin, especially big sins, so many people carry that sense of guilt and shame on them. I want to tell you that Jesus forgave you, and he paid the cost for that. And yes, you can still be used in a very divine way if you repented and change your mind. I want to end with this. In John 21, verse 20 to 22, Peter turned out and saw that the disciples whom Jesus loved was following them. This was the one who had leaned back against Jesus at the supper and had said, "Lord, who's going to betray you?" When Peter saw him, he asked, "Lord, what about him?" About John. Jesus answered, "If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me." You, Peter, follow me. Here's my point. Do not compare yourself with another person. He was trying to compare himself with John. What is that to you? In other words, in this era, we can say, mind your own business. That's not your business. If I want this with John, you, Peter, you follow me. Do not try to compare your ministry with another person's ministry, your church with another church, your personality with another person's personality. Your calling is different. Your gifts are different. And you're called to work with God. And you might heard bad stuff from people, again, like Peter did. Maybe hurt his feelings. We have a saying called, if we're going to be the bridge to get people to Christ, sometimes we're going to be walked on. And I'm truly sorry for what you have heard from people that hurt your feelings and let you doubt that you're not good enough. But here's the point. Your confidence comes from your calling. Your confidence should come from your calling. If you believe in him, that wherever your situation and you have a calling in your life, God called you and equipped you for that, don't discount yourself. Even if you say wrong things at wrong times. Even if you heard bad things about yourself and that hurted your feeling. God still is looking to use you in a very divine way, exactly like what he did with Peter. My friends, I want to encourage you. Take some time today, pray. Ask the Lord what exactly you want me to do with your kingdom. What gifts you equip me with to make me very unique and loved so I can work with you. You can serve with your church or a ministry, or maybe you're called to build a new ministry. Maybe Land of Hope is one of the channels that you can serve with. If you go to livinginhope.ca and fill that form, a team member will reach out to you and will be gladly welcoming you to serve with us. I want to encourage you to watch a small glimpse of what Land of Hope does. At the same time, I'm very excited to invite you to watch a great testimony of someone who experienced Jesus, and we'll be right back. God bless.
Are you ready to find hope and purpose in your life? Introducing the Living in Hope Bible Study Guide, a 6-part series exploring inspiring biblical characters who overcame challenges and embraced courage to live out their purpose. Dive deep into stories of faith and perseverance with our comprehensive video series. And don't miss out on your free PDF download to enhance your study experience. Perfect for personal and group study. Visit crossroads.ca/livinginhope and start your journey today. Live in hope, live with purpose.
In a world where spiritual support is needed around the clock, we introduce to you Anyone Pray. Anyone Pray is a groundbreaking 24-hour prayer line platform designed to provide spiritual care to individuals and communities, anytime, anywhere. With Anyone Pray, churches and organizations have access to a dedicated prayer line number, connecting them to a network of trained volunteers who provide personalized care and support to those in need. Our volunteers undergo professional training to ensure every call is met with genuine care and understanding. Through Anyone Pray, churches and organizations can easily connect with their communities and offer spiritual resources like never before. Anyone Pray suits the needs of churches and organizations of all sizes, offering affordable solutions, well-trained prayer partners, reduced waiting times, and pastoral support at your fingertips. Whether your members are going through difficult times, seeking guidance, or simply need someone to listen, the prayer support they receive through Anyone Pray will provide uplifting and meaningful experiences. Join the spiritual care revolution today with Anyone Pray. Visit our website at www.anyonePray.com to learn more and start your journey with Anyone Pray.
My name's Tony, but birth name Anthony and last name Paul. After I was about 2.5, 3 years old, my mom decided she didn't want to be with my dad anymore. And so she left, and her boyfriend showed up. And he beat us a couple times, and I said, I'm not sticking around for this. So we ran away. So they put me in what's called a boys' home. I probably spent 4 weeks in the cell. And your food was always brought to you in plastics, you know. And I was fighting a lot because you're in an environment where, you know, you can't take anything from anybody. So I ended up being given over to my cousin and her husband as my guardians. So when the summer came, my foster parents, her husband actually went away to Boston, Massachusetts because he got a job. He was an American citizen and he had gotten a fairly decent job. So they decided they were going to make the move there, and they gave me the choice to stay or go because I was 16 now. And I said, well, there's nothing here for me, so no sense staying. I'd rather go there, you know. So I bought a round trip ticket, and I was working, doing a cash job, but I was starting to get in a lot of trouble. Deeper and deeper, you know, I was meeting more gangster, criminal type people in Boston. I spent a couple of years living like that. And then I started doing needles. Yeah, everything just kind of went downhill fast after that because it just sapped the life out of me. And nobody wanted to hang around with me anymore because I'd become a junkie, basically. And I was useless. And it was December 16th, 1989. It was a Saturday morning, and it was like 9:30 in the morning. And I heard my name. So I turned around. There was nobody there. I thought, that's kind of strange. And I started walking. I heard my name again. Tony. And I turned around. I thought, that's really strange. I know somebody's calling my name, right? Then the third time I heard my name, and I realized, wait a minute, it's coming from above. It's not coming from down here. And I said, what do you want? And the voice said to me, why don't you give your life one honest shot and try me? And I froze. And I said, I don't know who you are or what you want, but if you can help me, you're way too late. Where were you when I was a kid? Where were you when I was 8, when I was 12, when I was 15? Like, where were you? And he just kind of pointed my eyes to the Salvation Army that was just down the street. And so I walked down, and I barely put my hand on the door, and it came open. And it was like 3-4 steps there. And as I was going up the steps, I could feel these hands on my backside just kind of lifting me. And I remember looking behind me, and there was nobody there, but I could really physically feel somebody taking my weight. And I seen the top of this lady's head. She was sitting down, and she said, "What do you want?" And I said, "Do you have a rehab here?" And she said, "Just a minute." And she called inside, and the captain, who was like the pastor, came out and talked to me in the foyer. And then he looks at me and he says, "What do you think about Jesus?" And as soon as he said the word Jesus, my mind flashed back to when I was 3 years old and my mom was still with us. And he showed me this pamphlet. It opens 3 ways. And he said, flip it over. And when I flipped it over, there was 2 mountains. And the mountains didn't meet. There was like a valley in between. And there's a bridge that went from one mountain to the other. And the first mountain said man. The second mountain said God. And the bridge was in the shape of a cross. And it had Jesus written on it. And when I saw that, I was like, oh. So in order to go from me to God, I got to go through Jesus. It was like a concept that I had never heard of before. But I believe that people should come to church as they are. The Holy Spirit will change them. You know, whether we're all sinners. So how can you point your finger at somebody who doesn't go to church and say they're a worse sinner than me? We're all sinners, and we all fall short of God's glory. But I'm going to keep doing this for as long as I can, because that's what God called me to do. And my wife is committed to do it by my side. And that's what we're going to do until it's time to check out of here.
As a single parent, the weight of responsibility is overwhelming. I'm grateful for the prayers that give me the strength to keep going for my kids' sake and mine. You were there for me, offering support and encouragement and reminding me of God's promises when I needed it most.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that testimonial. You are invited, personally by name, to have that kind of experience with Jesus. You know, Jesus met with Paul, and he changed his life from Saul to Paul. And he was one of the greatest Christians ever lived. If you want to experience that personal relationship with Christ, I'm not here to talk about religion or tradition or a doctrine. I'm here to tell you about Jesus. That's the person who changed the life. You might face challenges or obstacles and maybe have questions. There is a big team here 24/7, 7 days a week, waiting for your call. If you just call this number, 1-866-273-4444. One more time, 1-866-273-4444. That's the prayer line of Crossroads. A big team here was waiting for your call. You just make the call, and someone will be able to help you with your Christian walk. Stay blessed.
Living in Hope is a co-production of Crossroads Christian Communications and Land of Hope, registered charities in Canada. To learn more about Crossroads Prayer Line television programs and to make a donation, visit crossroads.ca. To learn more about Land of Hope, serving opportunities, events, and to make a donation, visit landofhope.net.